everybody. Welcome all the angels. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is our third Thursday now, so we're all experts really. Just a little bit of housekeeping as usual, so that just so that you guys know, we cannot see you or hear you. To ask questions, down the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A part. You just press on that and then you can write your question. Ideally, we'll wait till the end to answer all the questions, but if there's something that's pertinent to the conversation, I'll butt into the girls and we can get the answer for you as you write it. So tonight we have Kate and Nina from Two Pairs, and they will be doing a cooking demonstration, some pork gyoza, I believe, and talking about their wines, but most importantly, giving you guys a bit of an insight into who they are and where they came from, and you'll find out a bit more about them. Finally, before we get started, we will be running a poll tonight, just so that we can get a little bit more information. So tonight it's about what you prefer to see and hear, more about winemakers' stories, experiences, etc., or the technical side of winemaking. So yeah, that will be up there all tasting, and we can run through the results at the end of the tasting. That's enough from me. So I'll hand it over to Kate and Nina, and they can take you through tonight's tasting. Okay, over to you guys.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Well, names, I'll take it from here because you know I'm the chatty one. Well, firstly, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Naked Wines, and a huge shout out to all the angels and everyone else who is joining us tonight. We are trying something a little bit different, trying to cook live, which, you know, hey, what can go wrong, honestly? Poor Neens has got the hard job. I have got the job that I'm, you know, born for, which is basically drinking and talking. So, you know, I've got it pretty easy. But hopefully tonight, what we'd love to do is just really get our story across. Nina's going to cook the fantastic pork gyoza recipe with, and if we twist her arm, the chili dipping sauce, which she never gives me the recipe for, but I'm hoping that we can get it live tonight. And really talking through our wine. So, well, Nens, do you want to get the cooking bit started, and then we'll dive into a bit of our story? Yeah. Got that going.
Absolutely. Well, so this is the easiest recipe in the world. It's really not very challenging. Thank you, Kate, for saying that I've got the hard job, but I like to stay busy, so it suits me perfectly. So basically, it's just mince, 200 grams of mince, 100 grams of shredded cabbage, which is what I'm doing now. I've just got one of those baby wombots, which I love using in cooking because they're so easy and delicious. And it's literally just, you can add anything to this. Tonight I've got ginger. I forgot to get shallots from the supermarket. Kate knows that I'm excellent at remembering all the detailed things I need to do. But instead I've got chives from the garden. So I'm just using chives instead of shallots. So it's one of those recipes that if you've forgotten something, you haven't got it in the fridge, you can totally ad lib. Same with the mince, you can freestyle that if you've got beef mince instead, or we sometimes get venison because my husband hunts a little bit up in the hills here. So we often do venison and make it a bit more of a richer, bigger style of gyoza. And then obviously that goes really well with different wines as well. But tonight we've got the pork. I put in some ginger. I put in heaps of ginger, but you can follow the recipe if you like. But yeah, I love ginger, can't get enough. And a little bit of garlic. Again, I love garlic, so that's more garlic than what the recipe says. And then it's just a matter of mixing the mince together and adding some soy sauce.
It's a bit like our winemaking, isn't it? We just throw a little bit.
We need to fast track it. A little bit of oyster sauce as well. That just gives it a nice little bit of sweetness inside. And some cooking sake. But again, if you don't have that, you can just dash in a bit of your white wine for drinking.
Pinot Gris, could you throw that in?
Absolutely, why not? If you give your guests enough Pinot Gris, then they won't even notice. You don't have to worry.
Exactly. I have to say, you're looking very Nigella tonight, domestic goddess.
I don't feel very Nigella, I have to tell you. I've got a bit of a cold, hopefully just a cold, nothing more serious. I've also put in, again, this isn't in the recipe, but kaffir lime leaves. I add them to everything. I add them to my tea and to my water and to pretty much every Asian dish that I've got. So I shredded some of that up before and I popped it in.
And coriander, my favourite or not?
I love coriander. These don't have coriander in them, but yeah, you can easily add coriander, any kind of herb. I put some lemongrass in because I've been growing lemongrass in the garden and I think the frosts are about to get that. So yeah, using that up as much as I can. Then, like I said, some sesame oil. And then I'll start mixing and you can tell us about yourself.
The wine? No. Let's talk about the wine quickly. I think, so at the moment, I'm drinking the Pinot Gris, and as you can tell, I've maybe had a bit because I've actually got rid of the husband tonight. He's at work, and the children, they're at the grandparents. And if you're watching, Mum and Dad, thank you. Hope they're in bed. So I think it's the first night that I've actually had on my own in probably about 9 So it's awesome. It's great to be sharing it with you all. So the Pinot Gris, as you know, the 2019, it comes from the King Valley, and our style, it's labelled Pinot Gris on the, on the bottle, but our style really sits on the fence, doesn't it, Needs? Like, I think when it's super chilled, it's definitely more aperitif style, and it's more Grigio style. So when I say Grigio, it's more the style from northern Italy, where it's, quite austere and that lovely minerality and, really nice to start off, the night. As it warms up, you'll get more of that Pinot Gris style. You'll get more of that sort of, pear, white floral, definitely more aromatic. And it's more sort of reminiscent of the Gris style from Alsace. Again, it's not sweet, as you know, it's dry. But I think it's a really sort of versatile wine and works really well with food, like the gyoza with the pork or anything with a bit of chili. It works quite well with. And yeah, anything else you want to say, Nate?
I think we've got it pretty much covered it. Yeah, we were going to tell you guys tonight, though, that I think probably all of you are aware of the, well, I'm sure you're all aware of the devastating fires that went through, certainly around Victoria and across Australia, obviously, but and the effect that had on the wine industry. So a lot of the fruit from our growers, especially in the King Valley and Alpine Valley, were smoke tainted, which is devastating, obviously, for the growers and also for winemakers around the country. But this year, we're actually, one of Kate's best mates in New South Wales had a little bit of extra fruit available. So,
yeah, didn't we?
Yeah, so luckily his fruit wasn't affected. So this year we're going to release a special Pinot Gris called Smoke and Mirrors under our 2 pairs label, which means that we can continue to supply lovely angels.
Yeah. And look, it will be different to the King Valley Pinot Gris that we currently have. And I think, is that sold out, Paul, or nearly sold out, I believe?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that one's nearly gone, and we'll get the smoke and mirrors out to you all as soon as we can. And just be mindful, it is a different one. It's from a different region. It is definitely more on the Gris side. It has got more sort of aromatic, and it's got more texture on the palate, a little bit of tropical. So yeah, it is great that we could, jump in and sort of cherry pick this fruit and be able to bring it to you still. And, but hopefully we'll be able to also get back to the King Valley in 2021. So yeah. Oh, sorry.
You can just quickly explain to the angels that Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio are in fact the same variety.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, Gris and Grigio are exactly the same variety. It's just the style in which it's made. So briefly, as I touched, that Gris comes from northern Italy, and it's very much minerally and really sort of like I like to think of when I think of because I'm quite visual. When I think of wine, talking about wine, I like to think of it like drawing like on an axis. I'm really going on about sorry. Anyway, so pretend there's an axis, and Gris is very sort of linear and straight across the axis. It's quite acidic and really lovely and aperitif style. Whereas the Pinot Gris from Alsace is really sort of luscious and a bit more sort of fatter across the palate. So it would sort of go more like that across the axis. So that's how I like to think of, you know, the difference between the two. How about you, Nines?
I think it's sort of culturally like Italian white wines. I've always found, especially the Pinot Grigio from the north, it goes so well with the sort of richer dishes, that they're pizzas and things like that, where there's a lot of fat. And so the acid is just the crisp, fresh. So simple acidity makes it just a lovely casual drink. Whereas I find the Alsatian Gris with those beautiful textures, with the more complex French food, just they seem to sort of go hand in hand, and obviously have evolved together, food and wine, in those different regions. So that sort of is my way of remembering which is which. And Australia, of course, has managed to meld the two and confuse everyone completely.
Yeah,
but make some really good wine. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's called Gris or Grigio. It just matters that it's a beautiful drink. But I think it's really important that people know that there's different styles, and that's a way of identifying what you like to drink, and adapting it to what you're having to eat.
So Nins, are you about to show us how to fold, or do you want me to jump in a little bit about our story?
Keep talking about our story, because I'm having a technical glitch.
What can go wrong? Nothing.
Well, apparently, nose skins can go very dry, and that's what's happening right now. Carry on.
All right. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually Catherine Day, and Nina is actually Catherine Day. So both our real names is actually Catherine. And our story began when we met at university, studying winemaking at Adelaide on our first day. And I remember turning up, and I had my name tag on. And for those of you that know me, I was like probably about 10 minutes, beforehand on time, and Nins was about 10 minutes late. And my name tag, Catherine Joyce, it was at the time, and then Catherine Stocker turns up, and I was like, oh, well, at least I can, start talking to her about something, because, I'm very shy. And so started chatting. Hi, how are you? Anyway, that forged a great friendship on our first day at university, and that went through university. We made wine together there. I remember we made a very unusual, what was it? It was a gamma, no.
It was Shiraz made in we tried to use the Beaujolais carbonic maceration in a big bag, and it was woeful. It was awful.
But we gave it a go. It was a wanger bag. I don't know. It was terrible. But look, we had a wonderful time at university learning how to make wine, and thank God it all went up from there, because it couldn't get any worse than the stuff we made then.
We could do that if you want. We could make that for Naked Wines exclusively.
Oh!
It doesn't sound that great, I must say.
Although
Beaujolais style is all the rage, I must admit.
That's true.
Not ours. Trust me.
For the hipsters.
I don't think even we drank it as university students struggling with money. But hey, look, we learned from there. Anyway, so then we graduated, funnily enough, and Nina and I both went off our separate ways working throughout Australia and the world, and we can tell you a bit about that a little bit later of places we've worked. But fast forward a few years, and I was getting married, and Nins was invited along to the wedding. And so we dancing away, having a wonderful time, drinking, and Nins sort of slipped out of the, sorry Nins, you're going to hate me for this. Nins slipped out of the wedding. And apparently she went out for a talk, I believe, just a talk, and was caught walking back in. This is the actual proof, ladies and gentlemen. Nins walking back in with the best man.
And that was pre-iPhone. Why have I got the paparazzi kind of...
I know! It's like a dead set paparazzi shot. I just absolutely caught in the act there. Anyway, the best man happened to be my husband's identical twin brother. So as you can see where this is going, it's stranger than fiction. Fast forward a few more years and we have wedding bells again. So thus the name Two Pairs, both Catherines, both winemakers, now married to identical twins. And here's another one. Means I had to delve deep for these. This is us. at the wedding. Means that's a gorgeous little, I'm loving that, loving it.
Change.
This is what we've become. Here we all are here, and that's.
I think that was still 10 years ago. I think we've become a bit.
I know. I had to bring out old ones because
I noticed that I was drinking a VB stubby in that picture of us.
Yes, you were. You were in this one. I had to like cut it out, crop it out. But yes, so that's how we became two pairs, and we had like. We'd always sit around because, being family now, we'd always sit around at Christmas time or whenever, and we'd be talking about, we really want to do our own brand, because Nita and I both had our own careers happening, working, we both worked in corporate, we both worked in small boutiques, we both travelled and worked all around, as I said, Australia and the world, and we'd always say, we really love to do our own brand, love to do this, that. We'd get pissed at, I shouldn't say that. We'd get drunk at Christmas time and, talk about what we'd make and what we'd do. Anyway, we came up with the name Seeing Double, which we couldn't use. And then one day, Nina's daughter, or was it Ellie or Max? One of them. I don't know, your kids eat a lot more fruit than mine. One of them was sitting at the table and we're there together, and we'll just say Ellie. Ellie picked up a pear and Nina says, 2 pairs, Ellie, because she's probably already eaten 3 or 4 during the day. My kids, meanwhile, have been eating God knows what. And we're like, yes, that's the name. So that's how 2 pairs came along. And then we thought, how do we make this happen? And that's where Naked came in. And we'll talk a little bit about that, I think, after you've shown us how to... Are you at wrapping mode?
I'm winning. Yeah, I'm winning here.
You do that, and then we can talk about how Naked came in, how we got naked.
So basically, you just put a little teaspoonful of the filling on the round gyoza. This is just from the supermarket, but you can actually make them. They're very easy to make. So if you run out of those, you can even rustle those up. But just with flour water, I've just wet the edge, the front edge, and folded it over into a little mou. And then it's all about the little pleats. So if you can see that, I'm just folding it into a little pleat and squeezing it together, and it's really just as easy as that. You go along and squeeze them together, make sure you've got all the air out, and make sure that you've got enough water on there to seal them so when they cook they don't explode. And there's a little gyoza.
That is amazing. Do you do Uber Eats, Needs?
Not in the Tallarook Ranges, unfortunately. There is none. Oh, you mean do I supply? Well, that
yeah.
Yeah, we'll work on that. That can be next.
Hey, look, awesome. That's the neatest thing I've ever seen you do.
Oh, no. Neatness is not my middle name, but I can do these neatly. I usually outsource that to you or John.
I know.
And the next part of the story, can I sort of fill in here, was when Mark came into it. Mark, who's in the top of the screen here. We came up with our idea of 2 pairs wines, and then we discussed ways of how we could make it happen, and all of them hit a dead end except for the possibility of Naked Wines, which obviously funds independent winemakers like us to follow our dreams. So we met Mark at, what was it, Kate? The Newport Arms?
The Newport Arms, yeah.
Cool, kind of gorgeous place to meet. Had a glass of champagne to sort of calm our nerves because we were quite nervous.
And in the morning, mind you.
Yeah. And then we met Mark and told him our story and the wines we wanted to produce for Naked, and a bit about our backgrounds. And Mark, who you're not probably a man of many words, are you, Mark?
Really?
Sort of got to the end of our spiel.
Can I just interject? Mark's going, oh my God, these girls. Well, probably not you, but me. He's like, shut her up.
Kate probably had like quite a verbose way of explaining the plan. But we got to the end and Mark sort of looked and sort of nodded, and we both nervously sat there. And of course, Kate, who can't stop talking, then started talking about breastfeeding her child, which was completely inappropriate. And then finally we said to Mark, so what do you think? And he said, yeah, cool. And we're like, so what happens now? And it's like, we'll just get on and make some wines. And I think that was the most refreshing kind of experience that we've ever had of pitching a wine or wanting to do something, and without the layers and layers of kind of corporate kind of email backwards, forwards, and CCing 100 different people and making sure you've sort of dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. It was just a kind of a belief in what we wanted to do, and an opportunity for us to sort of, you know, spread our wings and do
it, hasn't it? It really has.
Yeah. So, and it's only a year. We can't believe we've only been making wine for Naked for a year, but it feels like we've been part of the family for a while.
And I think on that too, you know, and Nina and I have worked across many realms, and the one thing that I just think is unbelievable within Naked and you know, across the wine industry is just that connection that we get with the angels, which we don't have, or we haven't had in our previous roles, whether, as I said before, be in corporate or even in the boutique wineries. You don't have that level of connection with the angels as what we're having. And a big shout out, especially to our archangels, Grades and Malcolm, who I know are watching tonight, and a special shout out to Wolf and Steve, who, well, Steve's not watching, but when you watch it on replay, Steve, you know, and Wolf up in Queensland, I'm surprised he's watching because I think the Broncos are playing tonight, actually. I don't know, I'm not really into league. Yeah, but that connection we have with our archangels, with the angels, and, you know, like, you know, with the connection through our app and on the winemaking page and the messages we get, it's just unbelievable. And I think all the Naked winemakers are so appreciative of that, and I know we are. And that's, for me, has been by far the best thing about dealing with Naked Wines and working with Naked Wines, is having that that direct connection with you guys. And yeah, it's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. And it breaks down, I think, the intimidation that is often, or has historically been, around wine. I think when you, you know, when you sit down in a really fancy restaurant and the sommelier comes over and asks you what you want to order, like, obviously for us, we have a bit of training, so it's not quite so intimidating. But I know even for me sometimes, and certainly when I was younger, it was quite stressful, sort of trying to pronounce the names, or, you know, anything to do around wine, or what, you know, being judged for ordering the wrong wine or something like that.
Yeah.
And it does an amazing job of connecting people with, you know, what wine's all about and what wine's always been about in other cultures, which is just enjoying the pleasure of it, and ameliorating the stress from having children and all the other stresses in your life.
And how much have we been stressed lately with homeschooling? Hasn't that been a joy?
Oh, yes.
And you're still doing it. Thank God I'm in New South Wales and I'm not at the moment, but you still are, I think. Yes.
Our level of detail in homeschooling now is kind of down to teaching them how to make gyoza and things like that.
I know. I made my kids fold washing the other day. I was like, now we're going to learn how to fold the laundry.
Husbands one day.
All right. So where are we at? You're just keeping folding?
Yeah, I can keep folding while you talk, and then we can cook them. We've still got quite a while, so I can cook them.
Like hospital corners that you're doing?
Oh, nice. They're nice.
All right. Well, I need to just drink a little bit more, and then I'm going to pop the Grenache, and we're going to try that and talk a little bit about that. But one thing I'd also like to say, going into our Grenache now, and this is something, there it is there. It's probably all backwards, is it, for you guys? This is something, you know, definitely that angels know that they help us as independent winemakers, which is just unbelievable. But there really is a knock-on effect. And I think our Grenache, especially the 2019 being a single vineyard Grenache, is a really great example of this. And a shout out tonight too to Marcus and Bettina, who I know are watching down in McLaren Vale. Yay! They are our amazing growers down there. And, you know, before we started sourcing from them, they were selling their fruit, and they have Grenache, they have, you know, the amazing Grenache, but they also have Shiraz and a few other varietals, which they sell on to larger corporates. And before we sort of came along and, you know, spoke to them about taking their fruit, they would never see where their fruit ends up. You know, it would just be sold and go into a big, you know, blend wherever it went. And one thing that's been fantastic is working with them and for them to be able to see their fruit going pure into a single vineyard blend, and being able to really see the fruits of their labour as such. And that's been amazing. I think with our Grenache too, being an unoaked style Grenache, it really shows the purity of the fruit that's there. And I think it's very commendable to both Bettina and Marcus on how well they're managing their vineyard and the great fruit that's coming out of there. So cheers to that. Sorry I don't have Grenache. It will come soon. But Nines, you lift your glass for them.
I did already. But you can't even tip your wine over your shoulder there, can you? In the winery, you can just...
No. And I don't even have Marcus here to boss around. Like, get me another glass.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, you go. Why don't I start warming up the pan while you get another glass?
No, it's okay. I'll just finish drinking. Don't rush me, girl. Now, so Nins, let's just do a bit of a rewind. Tell everyone how you got into winemaking.
This is where the fire begins, because I've actually put the pan on.
Oh, okay.
No, that's good. I think that'll add to the drama. So I grew up, I was actually born in Switzerland, which is why my name is Nina, not Catherine. It's actually Catherine, but in Switzerland they call me Katerina, and Katerina turned into Nina. We moved to Australia, and my parents bought a little block of land on the Golden River, which is where I am now in Victoria. And they planted a little vineyard, because in Switzerland they lived in a little village where there was a co-op vineyard where all the locals used to help sort of grow the grapes and then make the wine and enjoy it. And when they moved back to Australia, they wanted to recreate that sort of lifestyle and have that country experience for us and for them. And so I grew up around grapes and wine, but I always thought it was just a hobby that you do for fun on the weekends. And so I finished school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I studied science and arts in Melbourne. And in my science, I did microbiology. So I got really interested in the science of fermentation and science in general. And also was working in a cocktail bar. So keeping the balance between, life and being a geek. So I got really into drinking and obviously traveling and culture and food and all those things that go well. Finally, the penny dropped and put the three together, or the five together, really, if you add food and travel and science and, outdoor sort of farm work and all that sort of stuff. So got into winemaking, did a postgrad, that's where I met Kate, and then have worked in the wine industry. How about you, Kate? You tell us your story.
Okay, so mine's a little bit different. I grew up in the Shire, so for those of you that don't know that old Scotty from marketing is not the only great thing that's come out of the Shire. It's the Sutherland Shire of Sydney, and so I was more akin to beaches and around that instead of vineyards. But my parents were always entertaining. There was always food and wine and that sort of thing. We were always encouraged to try and to eat, and we travelled a lot. Very lucky. It was a very amazing upbringing. And then I just always wanted to make something. I thought, well, wine's a pretty good thing. So I went to, coming from a non-agricultural background, I went to university down at Wagga at Charles Sturt University, and I studied viticulture because I figured it was best to learn from the ground up. And then from there, I then went on and did vintages. So I think my first year out of uni at Wagga, I did 3 vintages in my first year. So I did Hunter Valley, Tasmania, and then Napa Valley. So that was a pretty hectic year, but it was an excellent way to learn. Because after going and learning the viticulture, I really embraced and loved the winemaking side. So that's why I decided to go and try vintage, and then thought, well, might as well do 3. So that's how I did that. And then went on and did winemaking at Adelaide University, which is where I met Nines. And then from there, worked, I've worked in Victoria, I've worked in Mudgee, New South Wales, I've worked in New Zealand, in Marlborough, and then worked over in Burgundy. And yeah, it's just been fantastic. I love, I think, look, we'll never be millionaires in winemaking, but we'll always live like millionaires because of the people that you meet and the the experiences you have and the travel and the places you go. I just think it's the richest sort of, when I say like the richest job to have or career to have, because of the people and the places and the experiences that you have. And it's just been fantastic. I've absolutely loved it. And for those of you that maybe have watched on our winemaking dashboard or app, my dad's pretty serious into wine and has a pretty good cellar, so he's been a pretty good sort of influence, I suppose, for my career as well. So yeah. How are we going for questions, Paul? You're very quiet.
There haven't been too many questions. There was only.
Are we boring everyone?
I think you guys have just got so much information. You're probably answering all the questions as they come along, but there's only just been how close do you ladies live, and are you making any red varieties? But you'll answer all of those.
Well, I suppose then the next one that we have coming up is our new baby, which did launch just before Mother's Day, which is our Shiraz. And put this back up here. So this is a really great wine, because the fruit is a mix of fruit from Nina's vineyard, which John looks after, her husband John, and obviously Nina's looks after, and also a blend of fruit from a great vineyard that I used to also take fruit from when I was working at Mitchelton in Heathcote. So it's really nice that it's sort of all come back around again, hasn't it, Nins, with this wine? It's only been, as I said, it only launched just before Mother's Day. So what's that? I don't even know what date we're at the moment. What's that?
Yeah. And the style, so the fruit from our vineyard, which is central Victoria, but in the foothills of the Talent Ranges, it's quite sort of more of a cooler style of Shiraz in terms of the aromatics. So lots of violets and spice and quite savoury notes, but still quite full-bodied, because obviously we're still in a warm spot. And then Heathcote, which has those really rich, powerful fruit flavours, blackberry. So the ones to get the sort of woven vineyards together like that, I think are quite magical. And aged in French oak, so it's got all that lovely nutmeg and cinnamon spice underneath it as well. And although it's still quite a young wine, 2019, obviously it's a baby, it's drinking really well and gorgeous with the steak or anything on the barbecue, basically. And especially with the cold weather coming up, it's
Yeah. Since we blended this one, we actually had we went to the snow last year with our family, both our families, and we met down there. And I remember after a day skiing, Nins and I had all our little samples, and we actually blended it there, and it was just really cool to do that, because the fact that we were sort of being able to do something. We always said when we started with Naked that this is our holiday, funds, and it was great that we actually blended this wine on our holiday. So, how are you going? Are you about to burn the house down?
Yeah. So I'm cooking the pan frying the goza. So the first step now is to pan fry them. I'll probably actually move it onto another hot plate. This is a wood-fired oven, which is just cooled down a little bit. So I'll go for the electric and cook quite fast, so that we get the nice crunchy bottom on the gyoza. And then you just pop in some water and put the lid on and steam them, and that's done. So it's a one-pot dish as well, which is so nice.
We love that. We hate washing up.
Yeah. So excuse me while I just put the electricity on.
Now, I've just finally got some Grenache. So a little bit about Grenache. Grenache is my thing. I absolutely love it. And I know that you shouldn't sort of name your favourite child. And thank God my kids are all in bed. Mum and Dad, if you're watching, make sure they're there, because we all have a favourite child. And this is mine. And I absolutely love it. And I think Grenache is a variety that can be, it can be a bit sort of like, people have had it in the past. It was originally used for fortifieds. So, it back in the day, it was always very over extracted and very, alcoholic. And when it gets like that, it goes into the real sort of lollipoppy, fairy flossy sort of realm. And I don't like that. I think when it's picked at the right time and it's not, doesn't go too far, it's got such beautiful, pretty aromatics. It's got florals, it's got spice, It's got, you know, the lovely red berry fruit, cherry, raspberry, that sort of thing. And that's what we're trying to show in this wine. And we actually unoak it. So we actually treat it more like a white wine when we're making it. Like, yes, it obviously stays on skins during fermentation to get the color and that sort of thing. But then it pretty much gets pressed off into tank, goes through malo, sits on you know, leaves for a little bit of time to get a little bit of texture. But then we pretty much get it into bottle. I think last year we bottled it earlier than our Pinot Gris, to be honest. And yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. And you know, and the whole reason behind that is to really show this beautiful aromatic. And it's unusual to get an unoaked red, and this is the pure form of Grenache. And it's sort of like, there's a lot of winemakers in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, some of the new new generation winemakers coming through in Châteauneuf-du-Pape over in France that are doing the same thing, this unoaked Grenache style. And I think it's a really pretty, versatile style. It's definitely more medium-bodied. So if you like, you know, a fuller-bodied red, it might not be your go-to. But, you know, it's, some people call it poor man's or woman's Pinot or warm climate Pinot. It's got those sort of aromatics. I think the tannin structure is different. It's a lot more sandier and grainier, the tannin structure, but a great sort of food wine or slightly chilled in summer. It's quite versatile, and I think it's a very pretty, different wine. And I think it sits really well in our sort of portfolio between, you know, obviously going from the white and then to the more fuller-bodied Shiraz, and then this sort of medium-bodied Grenache in the middle. Anything you want to add, Nance?
It's just winemaking when you've got good fruit is actually quite an easy job. I hate to admit that.
Oh, yeah.
Start with really good fruit, then the expression and the balance and everything. My cans.
Are you on fire, darling?
Oh, it's perfect. It's actually perfect. But yeah, I think that Tina and Marcus have done such a great job in the vineyard that we didn't have to do a hell of a lot in the winery, because all the flavour and the character and the balance was there already. So as you can see, you might be able to see, I hope you can see, I've just pan fried these, and I nearly burnt them because Kate was talking for such a long time.
Don't let me.
You can see they've just got a nice little brown bottom there.
We'll call it crust.
Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is pop half a cup of water, just enough water to sort of come about less than halfway up the sides of the gyoza, and then I'll put the lid on, and I'll try not to burn myself. If I do, I'll be signing out. But thanks for listening. And Kate was saying.
So how long do they go steaming for, Needs?
Pardon?
How long do you think you need to steam them for? Wait, quick, put the water in before you burn them.
Thanks. Yeah. I've lost my lead now.
Kate, just quickly, you mentioned going through malo. Can you just explain what that means and what that does for the wine?
Yeah, sure. So malo is malolactic fermentation, which is essentially the secondary fermentation of a red wine. Whites can go through it too. Chardonnay can be a wine that you'll put through secondary fermentation or malolactic fermentation. And basically it sort of softens it, and it, you know, yeah, like it sort of, I don't know, how would you explain it means? You sort of...
Yeah, what you're saying, so it's converting the malic acid, the appley sour character, to milk acid, so lactic acid, and it makes the wine more stable.
Yeah.
So acid issues just happen naturally in cellars in France and stuff, in the barrels, just automatically. Now in sort of more new world ways, we often sort of monitor it a bit more closely and make sure that it's gone through, and it stops the wine being microbially unstable. So
yeah,
fresh and lively. And
always go through malo. In white wines, it's generally a Chardonnay. People will put it through malo, and if you have a Chardonnay that's been put through malo, it'll show more of that buttery, sort of rich sort of character in a white wine. But reds will all be put through malo no matter what for the stability. Yeah. How'd that go? How long do you what have you put the water in? How long do you steam it for?
4 minutes, but I usually go for 4 to 6 minutes. So
4 to 6.
I'll keep an eye on them, so I might be darting backwards and forwards now.
No, that's good. So Nins, I was going to ask you, have you got any like funniest stories or funniest things that you've had with working with me?
Every day is a laugh, okay? Yeah, we've had some doozies. One that springs to mind is we were driving up to the King Valley to have a look at our Pinot Gris, and I was driving John's big Land Cruiser ute, so I was feeling, really tough, and Kate was beside me, and as we were driving out, John said, just don't run out of diesel. And so I was like, yep, won't run out of diesel, keeping my eye on the gauge, plenty of diesel, no worries, but didn't realise that it was on the sub pump. There's two, whatever they call. You can see why.
Fuel tank?
Thank you, yes, that one. And we broke down quite dramatically on the side of the Hume Freeway, and we then had to try and resuscitate the Land Cruiser back to life while a very kind but slightly psychotic, potentially murderous man trying to help us. And John was on the phone trying to talk me through how you give it, palpitations or whatever you do to it.
I had to like bleed the air out of some sort of pump and then almost give like CPR to some other thing, which, while you're trying to get the car to turn over, I was like doing this to anyway, we caught it all on video, and I'll tell you what, it's a classic. And if we get to 1,000 followers on our naked angel thing, I'll post it. I think we're at 600 now, so we need 400 more of you, and I'll post it. But yeah, well, I have to say, Nins, one of my funniest things with you was after we were doing our the naked tastings last year, which were awesome. Like, I absolutely loved that. That was a highlight for me last year, doing the Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne naked tastings and just meeting everyone and being, new kids. We were the new kids on the block. It was just overwhelming just to see what a tribe this is. Anyway, we were pretty tired and probably pretty hungover by this stage because we were in Melbourne, which was the last port of call. And I think we were at the hotel before we were about to go out, and I was looking for a magazine or something, and I think I was looking at a guy, I think it was it Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood, and I was like, oh man, that guy is so good looking, that is my hall pass. And Neen says to me, give me a look at him, and she has a look, she goes, I just don't think we have the same taste in men. And I looked at her and I went, are you for real? We're married to identical twins, you bimbo, and I'm the one with the blonde hair.
Well, two exceptions.
So anyway.
Are we tasting the Shiraz?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I got to finish my Grenache. I'm enjoying this. It's my favourite, child.
I think we've got a few minutes to go. And I've got my...
How are we going? Questions, Paul? Are we rabbiting on too much?
No. Everyone's loving it. They're not asking questions because you're talking so well. Just quickly, while you're talking about the Grenache, Mark Walder is asking, what differences would you see in Grenache from one vintage to another?
Okay, so I think, that has a lot to do, obviously, with the season. And also Grenache is quite temperamental with when you pick it, like I was saying before. So, it's a bit like Sauvignon Blanc. That's another variety that comes to mind. You can be out in the vineyard tasting those grapes, and you can really see what it's going to be like. And then, you get a day or two of heat and it can just tip over straight away. It's really sort of, temperamental like that. And so I think, if you get your Grenache too late, it really gets into that overripe, very confectionery, sweet sort of alcoholic-y sort of realm. But if you pick it earlier, like that little bit earlier, which is where we like to sort of pick it, err on that side of caution, it really retains that beautiful purity of fruit, the raspberries, cherries, spice, that sort of thing. And it's funny, Grenache, and as I was saying, Sauvignon Blanc, I've never, and you hear the French always talk about terroir, rah, 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 and I never really understood that until I went and worked in Burgundy and picking Chardonnay there for Corton Charlemagne, and also working in Marlborough. And Nina will also be able to attest to that because she's worked there as well. You taste those Sauvignon Blanc grapes in Marlborough and they literally, you know, you can taste the flavors in those grapes more so I think than, you know, other varieties then and there in the vineyard. And, you know, then you get a day of heat or whatever and it can just change dramatically. And it's interesting, those varietals like Grenache, like, you know, Sauvignon Blanc and I said black Chardonnay as I've dealt with in France, that you really notice that a lot more in the vineyard. Do you agree or am I, do you not?
I was going to say with Sauvignon Blanc and with Grenache and with these varieties that really show where they're grown, you drive 2 meters down the road or, you know, just down the road to the next vineyard and they taste completely different. Although
unbelievable.
And everything. It's extraordinary how much the influence the earth has to the grapes. But and I think just on vintage variation, I think that's one of the pleasures of making wines and being able to communicate directly with consumers because we can explain when there's a difference. And I think with a wine like the Grenache, which is completely unoaked, there's not a lot of winemaking technical kind of tricks going on. It's just, it is what it is. And then we can explain what those differences are and what makes it more lively or more aromatic or more this way. And likewise, people can feed back to us and say what they think about this vintage. And it's a much more interesting kind of way of making wines rather than making commercial wines that have to be the same each year. And there's no way.
Vintage variation thing in this regard, I think. Yeah. So, and I think you could see that between our 2018, which was a bit of a warmer year, and you could see that in the Grenache. It was, you know, it was that little bit riper. It did show a bit more of, you know, that warmer year in that compared to our 2019. And then I have to say, you know, old Corona has thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works, but I was down in McLaren Vale, because of those you don't know, I actually still live in New South Wales and fly down and spend my time for vintage in McLaren Vale. But I was down there prior to borders being locked down, and we got the fruit off, and it was fantastic. But haven't obviously been able to get down there since. But in the winery, because we use a contract facility down there, they've been sending a sample up and they've also been tasting, and I know Marcus has tasted it the other day, and apparently, you know, the winemakers in the contract facility, they think that the 2020 looks better than the 19. So, you know, when the fruit came off, it was looking fantastic and tasting amazing. So I'm not surprised about that. But yeah, old Corona's thrown slight sort of spanner in the works, but it's all going to plan, so it's good.
Let's have a taste of the Shiraz.
Hey, your chili jam. I want your bloody chili jam recipe.
We're going to run out of time.
Oh, see, I told you she never gives it.
Very convenient. Very convenient.
I've got it here. So basically, these chilies are from our garden, and we've chopped them up. I've mixed them with, well, first of all, we chop them up, salt them, and then we press them overnight. And then we rinse off the salt with some vinegar. You're not even listening, Kate. You won't hear the
Oh, it's a tough one, I tell you.
It's okay. And then the next day, so we rinse off the salt with the vinegar, and then we add, I add ginger, garlic, kaffir lime leaves, star anise, all my favourite things.
Lemongrass. Favourite?
Pardon?
Coriander, my favourite.
No, I don't add coriander to this. You add coriander later on because the coriander wouldn't, because it goes into jars and you can keep it for like a month or something. So coriander doesn't last. So, and then lots of sesame oil, and that's it. And so for this dipping sauce, all I'm doing is adding a spoon of that. So all those flavours are in there, which a lot of the flavours have been replicated in the gyoza. Excuse my voice, I'm croaking up here. A little bit of soy, of course. And just a little bit of rice wine vinegar. And that's it. There we are.
Is rice wine vinegar the same as mirin, or am I tripping?
No, not the same. No. No. And there they are. Finished.
Oh, looks amazing.
There they are. And I will taste them, but I might get some chopsticks so I'm not like looking confused.
Oh, knees. Just go in with the fingers. Go on.
Right.
on, Nigella, just slop it down.
This could be messy.
She loves it.
Oh. No, they're good. They're delicious.
You had me going there. I thought you'd really like killed yourself.
For like the first time in your entire life.
I know. It doesn't happen.
So let's have a look at the Shiraz. Look at that colour.
Paul, you haven't drunk all night. What's going on?
Sorry. Just been mesmerised by you guys. Sorry.
Oh, here he is.
Yeah, so the colour obviously is off the charts, and it was the whole time. So during the ferment, right from the first day of crush, we could see that the colour was going to be intense and amazing. So the fact that it's held that young, youthful, gorgeous, purpley.
That is such a sign of the Heathcote and Central Vic. Like when I was working down at Mitchelton, the colour was always amazing that came out of those Heathcote, or the Heathcote vineyard that we sourced from, and also, you know, your vineyard. And we used to buy your vineyard, as I said, buy fruit from your vineyard when I was working there. And it always had beautiful colour, and it always had beautiful sort of violety sort of aromatics, which I loved.
Yeah, it does. It's very expressive and very, you can pick it out in a line when you have it up with against other wines.
And look, I think the other thing the Angels will notice is that we're not massive fans of huge oaky wines for our own winemaking. I like drinking some time and place, but with our winemaking, I think we really love to show the purity of fruit and vineyard and that sort of thing. That's why Grenache is unoaked, and our Shiraz has 20% new oak, and the rest is sort of 2 to 3 year old oak in it. And I think it's a really, we love that balance, don't we? Sort of more fruit driven with that nice little hint and balance of the oak there.
Yeah, and it's a vibrant style that can be drunk young, but it can also be cellared. The acidity, the natural acidity in this wine's quite fresh, so it means really nicely as well, and integrate further. But there's lots of chocolate and plum and cherry and brambles, and perfect for a nice winter's night by the fire.
I baked too, Neens. I made brownies, guys, and I thought that when we get to the Shiraz that a brownie would work quite well. I'll put the recipe up on our winemakers page, and I'll send it to Naked if they want to send it as well. But I'm just going to hoe into these in a sec. So, yeah. I have a husband or children at home, so it's okay. So I did also do a top 5 questions, Neens. I'm going to get you on the spot again. All right, you've got to just throw it out there quick. Now you're not cooking. No pressure. You got to just go for it. All right. Your favorite, just favorite wine style. It doesn't have to be ours. It can be anything.
Oh, there's like 100 different moments for a different wine style. If I had to pick one, I would say maybe like an Alsatian Riesling or something beautiful and crisp and pure and lovely, or champagne, because champagne is champagne.
That's mine. Mine's champagne all day. Love it. Okay, favorite style.
Pardon?
Favorite food or food style or favorite food?
Asian. Anything with lots of chili and lots of ginger and fresh flavors. Yeah.
I'm Japanese. Okay. All right. Next thing, guilty pleasure.
Chocolate. Always chocolate.
Mine is really, really bad reality TV. My husband frigging hates that I love it, but give me a Real Housewives of God knows what. I love it. It's terrible. I love it. Oh, I'm going to get paid out so much about that. All right. This one's for grades. Favorite sporting team?
Oh, God. I don't
Sport, Neens, do you know sport?
I don't do sport, sorry.
Oh. And she's from Victoria, people.
Sorry. I do go for Melbourne, the football team Melbourne, but the Demons. See, I don't even really know their names.
My favourite grades, you'll kill me. I'm a rah-rah girl. I love the Wallabies. But I am from the Shire, so if the Sharks are in a grand final, one in every 50 years, I will go for them. And I have one most annoying trait about me.
Well,
do we have time?
Good. Mark, do we have another hour? We could probably. No, I love you, Kate. You're amazing. But I would have to say the detail of your organisation just drives me crazy. But it also does keep us going, so that's probably a good thing.
and I am the most anal person you'll ever meet in your life. And so, well, apart from Nina being the nicest, most amazing sister-in-law, so I'm always like the crap sister-in-law or the crap daughter-in-law or whatever. I think your ability to thrive in chaos annoys me because I don't deal well with chaos. But that's why we work well, yin and yang.
Yeah, exactly.
Two pairs. All right, Paul, you want to drop I think
we got some questions. Just quickly answer a couple of questions. So there's a few sort of around, have you thought of doing a GSM or a rosé or any other varieties?
I would love to do a rosé. I love rosé.
Yeah, we're keen. It's one of those things. It's almost like saying, what's your favorite wine style? Like any wine is a challenge, even if we haven't made it before. So definitely keen to make more wines and different wines. And yeah, it's just up to you, Mark, really.
Love to. And we love Angels. Just tell Mark what you want us to make. But I think where we're very lucky is both Nins and I have our own consulting businesses, and we do consulting with clients all over Australia. So we have amazing access to fruit, and from, our experience, we also have, we like to think some good sort of experience from learning to make different styles and stuff like that. I personally would love to make a rosé, but I love GSM, but I know I spoke to a lot of Angels at our at the tastings. I love GSMs, love them, but I'm such a fan of pure Grenache that, I find it hard to go past a beautiful pure Grenache. But yeah, I think Angels, send it all to Paul and tell him what you want us to make.
See what we can do.
Tomorrow.
There's another sort of couple around how you build relationships. If you don't have your own vineyards, how do you select and how do you build your relationships with your growers?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that's absolutely my number one favourite part of this job, and always has been. And I think just working and sort of that commitment, so year in, year out, working with the same growers is really important to me, because it means that you build that trust and that learning about, as a winemaker, just coming in and buying fruit 1 year from one vineyard and 1 year from a different vineyard, you don't actually get to evolve and kind of learn and adapt with that fruit. So having those longer term commitments and relationships with growers has been really important to me throughout my job. And I found that so much of it is to do with, obviously, first and foremost, quality and sourcing the right fruit for what you're making, but also having that rapport and having those connections and those really, and they're lifelong kind of friends. I've still got growers in New Zealand that I speak to regularly, and it's amazing. It's a really nice connection, and it's really important. And obviously, for the stability of both the wines, so having that consistency and that stability within the wines is really important to us, but also it's so important to a grower. As for agriculture, we have a farm here, we grow grapes, but we also have cattle, and so having those stable relationships is crucial. So that's always the forefront of our focus. Yeah.
I agree. And I think, our Grenache story as well is, it just shows that you can grow grapes and it can be sent into a large cooperative and you'll get paid the same amount of money, or you can grow grapes and if, people like us come along and you can actually see the fruit of your labor going into a specific wine. And I think for grape growers, that's an amazing, because let's be honest, they're doing the hard work. If they produce fantastic fruit like our growers that we source from, it makes our job so easy. It really does. And, all kudos to them.
Okay, one other question here. Musicians often reflect on their greatest influences. Do winemakers do the same?
Oh, that's an awesome question.
Yeah, I'd say for sure. I thought they were going to ask what our favourite musicians are, and that would have been a good question too.
I'm sure they'd like to know that as well. So.
No, I think definitely, and I think it's almost, for me, actually, it's never been so much about like the you know, extremely expensive, amazing wines that I've been lucky to taste, because you know, I don't drink extremely expensive, amazing wines all that much, but when I have, I've been inspired by them. But what inspires me most is probably the people I've worked with and learnt from in other wineries. So when I was post uni, went to Italy and worked with a really amazing winemaker in Barolo, and I learnt so much from him, just all the way through from, you know, fruit to making wine, but also sort of the approach to things and ways of adapting to issues and changes and being adaptable. And same, actually one of my favourite winemakers who I worked with in the Yarra Valleys, Steve Flamstead. He's always been a great mentor and always inspired me to do what I do. And he's always on the end of the phone if I've got a problem with something, which is amazing. So yeah, definitely.
And I suppose for me, like, I love wine, but I hate the BS behind it. So I just want people to enjoy, and, you know, like, if you like, a bit like what Nan said, if you like a $10 bottle of wine, that's fantastic. If you like the more expensive bottle of wine, that's fantastic. Whatever, like, it's like art. It's so subjective, and I just want people to enjoy it and to take the stigma of it all away and just have fun with it and enjoy it with food, and, you know, just have fun with it, to be honest. So yeah.
And the final question is, which wine do you think is the best match for the guios that you just made?
Oh,
Grenache,
I'm gonna have to line them up and taste them all again. I actually have to say the Pinot Gris. Yeah, Pinot Gris. These are lighter style of gyoza. The spice makes it work with the Grenache as well, because that chili and that soy kind of saltiness. But yeah, Pinot Grigio. Pinot Gris actually is ours.
Choose a lane, Niece. Choose a lane.
That's not my style.
She's on the fence, guys.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you very much. There's been some amazing comments, or just not actual questions, but just comments on how much people have loved it. So
it's been weird. It feels like we're just having a three-way conversation. I kind of forget that everyone's watching. I'm so sorry if that's been crazy, but we've loved it.
Thanks for everybody supporting us so much. It's been amazing. And yeah, send us any questions you have on the wines or on the gyoza, anything I can help with. I'm clearly not an expert chef, but, you know, have a crack.
You did amazing. I couldn't have done it. I'm much better at sitting on a couch and not doing much at all.
Rubbish.
yeah. So yeah,
guys, thank you so much.
Yeah. Any questions that you want to direct to Kate or Nina, jump on the website onto their wall, and
our wine page. Follow us.
They'll be happy. That's it. That's it. They'll be happy to answer them. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next Thursday. We've got, I think, Ash Horner coming next Thursday. So looking forward to seeing you then. Good night.
Good night.